Okay, we're here in our Unit 4 honors project. So, first, we're asked what are the demographics of the average voter, and according to the Population Reference Bureau, I will break it down for you. Of the 100% of women, only 56% of them are likely voters. Of the 100% of men, only 53% of them are likely voters. So women are 3 percentage points more likely to vote proportionately. Of the 100% of white people, only 60% are likely voters. Of the 100% of black people, only 51% are likely voters. Of the 100% of Hispanics, only 27% are likely voters. Of the 100% of Asians, only 26% are likely voters. So out of the ethnicities, white people are a few percentage points more likely to vote. And proportionately, of course. And so, and 2/3 of people that are older than 65 are likely voters. That's a pretty big number, 2/3. And so the most likely voter, taking all of the things into consideration, are 65-year-old white women. So the demographics of those who abstain from voting, according to the same numbers, are ethnic minorities, younger than 30 years old, and working class. Approximately, it says here, less than $50,000 a year, or less than $60,000 a year, it says in the Population Reference Bureau numbers. So, why are some groups more likely to vote than others? Many factors come into play. Different people have different priorities and things they have to preoccupy themselves with. And poor people, for example, have to wrestle with putting food on the table, keeping a roof over their family's head, and paying the bills. They are not particularly politically active. They have other things to do, more important things to do than keeping up to date with whatever is happening in the public sector. So they are not very likely to vote in comparison with people who are more wealthy, who are usually better educated too, and since they are more secure in their life with more money, they can focus their attention on whatever's going on in public affairs. They can get behind causes they believe in, and so they are more motivated to vote. Well, then we go on. In Australia, citizens are fined for not voting. We know that in the United States, it is really, how do you say this? It's your choice if you vote or not, and you're not fined for it or anything. So, what can we do to get people to vote more in the United States, get a higher voter turnout? A thing that goes on here, over there in the United States, is that you are not registered. You are not registered. I'm sorry, my English is not the best second language. Voters have to register themselves. The government, it's not automatic, and we know that is disincentive for people to vote, because going back to example of poor people, they have other things to do. They can't spend time out of work to go register. So I think the United States could do is, as soon as a person is eligible to vote, that person is automatically automatically registered. For example, here in Chile, I actually think I have the paper here. We are all registered automatically in the to vote. For example, I'm going to turn 18 today. Today, not this year, and I received this in the mail from Servel, which is the agency that looks and takes care of the elections, and I am automatically registered to vote as soon as I turn 18. So the United States could do that, but it's not enough because, as we have seen here in Chile, even with that, we have low voter turnout. I believe that if you really want to boost that, you have to go the Australian route and actually fine people for not voting, make it obligational. For example, again, here in Chile in September, we have a referendum on a new constitution that we have to reject or approve. And for that election, the vote is mandatory. And the polls show that there is going to be a pretty high voter turnout because of that. You will be fined if you don't vote. So I believe that's the best route to go. Automatic registration and a fine if you don't vote. What is the difference between popular vote and electoral vote? Well, in the United States, you have many different states which together form the United States. They unite to form a nation. And the system goes that depending on how many people you have in your state, you're going to have a number of representatives in Congress. So you have 435 representatives in Congress, and how that distributes is proportional to the population of the state. And depending on how many members you have in Congress is how many electoral votes a candidate wins by winning the popular vote in the particular state. For example, I will invent, if you win California, you will win 20 electoral votes. Then if you win Florida, you win 10 more. No matter how many votes you win in the entire nation, you add those 20 plus 10 electoral votes, and whichever candidate wins more states and has more votes, electoral votes, will become president of the nation, of the federal government. The popular vote is, well, in the entire United States, Florida, California, whatever, one person has one vote, and at the end of the counting, whichever candidate gets more votes is going to be the president. We have that in Chile, actually. Why is voting important? Voting is making it's self-governance. You want the country to go down a path, whatever that is. I mean, a bigger spending on national health care, or lowering taxes, or however you deal with a foreign conflict, or whatever. You have an opinion on that, and you want the country to go down one path. You can have power over which route the country goes by voting for candidates that will take the country down that path you want. So yeah, voting is crucial. Then we go to part 2. What does a lobbyist do? A lobbyist advocates on behalf of a specific position for an organization, an organized group of people that care for that specific topic. For example, I may care for whatever, lowering taxes. I get together with thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe a million people. The more people, the better, who care for that topic and for that issue, and we put money in, and we get lobbyists who will advocate for our position, and try to influence policy and regulatory makers to act on the interest we have to go down the path we want. So some examples of organizations or corporations that have lobbyists representing their interest in Washington is Lockheed Martin, the aircraft manufacturer that has spent $13 million, more than $13 million only in 2018. Facebook has spent more than $12 million on lobbying in 2018. The pharmaceutical company Bayer AG has spent more than 13 million on lobbying in 2018. And the defense contractor Northrop Grumman has spent more than $14 million, and Boeing has spent more than $50 million on lobbying in 2018. All these numbers are from 2018, excuse me. How does a lobbyist influence law? So a lobbyist can provide policymakers with legislation. They can present a written law, and that the congressperson or whoever, or a senator or the president even, can present that legislation and push for it to pass. They can also provide information on the topic, data, whatever, to push the position the group has. They can, the group the lobbyist represents can give campaign funds. That's always a big motivation for politicians. And they can also simply meet a lot with the politicians and develop relationships and talk to them, have a lot of meetings to push the agenda. So yeah, that's that. Some see lobbying as a way for corporate control in America. Others see it as a way for small movies to gain traction. In my opinion, corporations do have more power because they are bigger, have more money, can get better lobbyists. But I believe that small movements have benefited a lot from lobbying when they do it effectively. So I would take the good with the bad. So I would just accept corporations to have their lobbyists and whatever. At the end of the day, you as the voter will have the final say. You can get politicians removed from office, put them in office. So I believe that the good small movements, even civil rights movements, important movements, have gotten from lobbying is good enough that you have to accept the big corporate lobbying. So that's my opinion. I know Martin Luther King was a lobbyist of sort when he was advocating for the civil rights movement. So when you have that, and at the same time you have Lockheed Martin lobbying, you have to accept both, and I believe that the good outweighs the bad. So yeah, an issue. Now part 3, answer the following prompts. An issue that is really present today is environmental protection, preserving the nature. Voting can solve this problem by, voting is the main reason this problem can be solved, because you're going to elect politicians that care about this topic and will put laws and regulations in place to protect the environment. Uh, Whatever those specifics are. Uh, for example, I agree with having national reserves, natural parks, and things like that. But I'm also not don't support banning fracking, for example. So no matter on the specifics, those voting for politicians that will put the solutions the public thinks are necessary to protect the climate and nature in place is what is going to protect nature at the end of the day, more than how lobbying can help to solve the problem. And they can put pressure, present laws, legislation to the politicians. They can give them information on ways it's important to protect nature. Say, tell the motivate the politicians with the funding the environmental groups can give to the campaigns. So yeah, the lobbyists can keep pushing the politicians, but at the end of the day, voting is the the most important thing, because if you vote for politicians that don't care for environmental protection, no matter how many lobbyists you get, how much you push, at the end of the day, the legislator will not put protections in place. So that's we touch how voting can help solve the problem and how lobbying can help. Lobbying can continue to push and motivate. So next we have, is voting an effective way to solve problems for the American people? I believe it's the only way at the end of the day, because by voting you essentially reach an agreement. I'm going to vote for ideas, candidates. At the end of the day, one is going to win, and that's the path the nation will go down. With its respective checks and balances, which are important, but that's the main idea. And by doing that, you can work for a solution. If you don't have voting, you can experience huge social blockage. I don't know how to explain it. If you don't reach an agreement on what is the path you have to go down, you're going to generate a social unrest that will prevent any solution to be attained, and can even destroy the social fabric of the nation. So voting is a pretty effective way of solving problems, even though it can take a lot of time, or it can be very messy, or it can seem that solutions are not coming as fast as they should. It is a good way to ensure the security of the nation long term and the solutions long term. And is lobbying an effective way to solve problems? Yeah, I would say so. Especially if voting is more long term, more stable, lobbying can get you more short term accomplishments, or can help what you voted for get through the finish line, and deliver on on the promises that they made to you, politicians made to you. So I believe lobbying is effective. We have seen how the military industrial complex, like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and those companies have managed to use it in order to further their interest. We can all do the same. So if we want problems to be solved, we could employ the same methods they have used, those corporations have used to push for our interests. So yeah, lobbying works, I guess. So yeah, that's that.